Hey everybody, I just thought before we aired our next episode of Southbridge Street Live that I would take a few minutes to offer my gratitude to our presenting sponsor, Aloe Soft, to our newest sponsor, Atzenhofer, who is sponsoring our Best of the Best, which airs on the weekend. And then to also just make a statement that says, you know what, behind every good show, there are lots and lots of people that are behind us supporting Southbridge Street Live, like my producer, Jake, and my assistant, Jim. And then, of course, all the hosts that we have who have created their own pilot shows for you guys to view and are waiting for sponsorship. And then a couple of personal shout outs to people who help me behind the scenes, like Ashley from Cotton Bells, who helps with wardrobe, and Stephanie from Beehive, who helps me with hair. And then, of course, Rachel from Bright and Go, who helps keep my smile bright and beautiful. And then, of course, I wanted to take just a second to thank you, the viewers, because without you, this could not be possible. So just a shout out for everyone to say thank you on behalf of all of us from Southbridge Street Live. Hey, happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Southbridge Street Live. I'm incredibly honored to be here with Cheryl Johnson. She is the editor of Victoria in Motion magazine that's going to be celebrating the 10th year in print. And then she's also the owner of Outburst Advertising, which has been an advertising firm in Victoria, Texas for over
25 years.
25 years. That's amazing. So you have all kinds of anniversaries. And of course, I've never seen this woman before in my life. She and I are partners in Victoria in Motion magazine, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about the magazine and then a lot about this fundraiser that we're going to put together.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm honored to have you. It's so fun to finally have you here. You have no idea how long I've been trying to get this woman in this chair. So let me talk to you about Outburst Advertising for a little while, because I just think that's phenomenal. I did not realize, I think since we've been partners in the magazine for 10 years, that you had this whole other existence, this whole other life before me for 15 years before that. So
it's
advertising.
It's my real job.
It's your real job.
You know, and people ask me about that. Victoria in Motion is kind of my part-time side job.
Right.
And for the first, probably 8 years we did it, I worked on it on weekends and at nights.
Right.
And just the last couple of years, I've incorporated it from a time perspective more into my day job.
Right.
So.
Well, tell me about advertising. Tell me about you as a person, because you know I'm going to do a biography, because you know that's what I do. But I want to talk to you kind of about, you know, you were from California. You moved here. You were married, moved to Victoria, Texas. What was it about you that decided, what went on that you were like, you know what, I'm going to start an agency?
It was really my husband. My husband is from here. He moved to California to find me. The family lore is he answered a get rid of my daughter ad. And my parents advertised trying to get me out of the house, and he answered the ad.
I love
looking
it.
for a bride. And, but he moved to California, which is where we met and got married. And then we started looking around at just the cost of living in California is astronomical, and decided that's not the life we wanted.
Right.
So we moved here, and he, through some family connections, I got in touch with Diane Jernigan, who at that time was managing Victoria Mall, and her daughter Danette was getting married to my husband's brother.
Oh, wow.
And so we had a little bit of a family connection. I talked to Diane and I said, look, we're thinking about moving out there. Can I send you my resume? If you hear about any job openings, let me know. And I had been in sales in California. So she passed my resume on to KVIC Radio.
Oh, wow.
And when we moved here, I interviewed right away with them and got the job right away. And so I started doing radio advertising, sales and marketing that way. And that was really my first experience with doing marketing.
Oh, I
and
see.
I really enjoyed it. And I did that for 7 years. And on the side, I would do graphic design. I've always been interested in art and drawing and that sort of computers. And when I had my first daughter, I went back to work and I was miserable. And my husband said, why don't you quit? Open up an advertising agency. And he listed off, he said, I bet you these 5 customers would go with you. And I told him he was crazy. I said, there's no way. I mean, we just had a baby. What are you talking about starting a family? So I thought about it for a couple of days. And it was a Monday, he said, on Wednesday, I thought, okay, I'm going to investigate. I went to those 5 customers. 3 of them said, where do we sign?
Oh, wow.
And 2 of them said, we don't need an agency, but we'll continue to use you for our marketing work. And the rest is history.
His history. I love that.
So I had Rachel, my oldest, in June, and I started the business in November.
Wow.
So
how did you manage?
I was very blessed. I had my mother-in-law has always watched my kids. And so we never had to put them in daycare.
Wow, that is
in fact,
a blessing.
they're 21 and 18, and they still go over to her house every day during the summer. But she would come to the house and watch the kids, and so it allowed me to feel like I was a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
As I started this business, and so I worked out of my house for 2 years, and then after I had my second child, we opened up offices and put a sign on the door. And
so, Cheryl, let me ask you something. What advice would you give to a young woman who is in Victoria and who's considering opening her own business?
You know, one of the things I have a conversation with my children frequently is find something that you love and do it. And I used to tell them, find something that you love that you can make a living at and do it. And I've changed that. I think you still need to find something that you love, but I don't think you can always find something that you love that'll make you a living.
Right.
But find something that you love to give your life that passion. And so I would say to young women opening a business, that you really need to love it, because it is a huge emotional investment.
Right.
And you put a lot of your heart and your soul into this business. It's your baby in a lot of respects. And if you don't like the business, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing to do, because you put a lot of hours, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Right, right. I think that's great advice. What about for advertising right now in this climate, or what are some of the changes that you've seen, or what are some of the trends in advertising?
Victoria I think everybody says my market is unique.
Right.
And it's true to a certain extent, but I think Victoria is definitely unique in that traditional media still works very well.
Right.
And you don't see that in other markets. You have, for example, one of the other projects that we do is we publish the Victoria Real Estate Review, which is that little magazine you find in the grocery stores around town.
It's so funny because we've been together for 10 years and I don't know much about the process of how this goes on because we've focused so much, but tell me about Real Estate Review.
So it's the funniest publication. It's a magazine of ads. And we've been publishing it for 20 years, I suppose.
Wow.
And the thing that we struggle with recently is the local businesses know that it's effective. They know people pick it up. They know that people look through it. So it's a great way to keep your name out there and to build some name recognition. We're having right now a lot of companies in the real estate industry, particularly a lot of brokers, put agents in Victoria. For example, I had a conversation with a local agent here whose broker, the business is based out of Austin. They don't do print in Austin. Print doesn't work.
Right.
And so it's been very difficult for them to sell their owners on the fact that this publication is a good place to have your message. Because in the bigger markets, it's not.
Right.
So when I say that Victoria is a good place to advertise in a traditional medium, I mean like print and radio, television, newspaper, it really is. It's certainly not the way it was 20 years ago. Right. But it's still a good place to get your message across. And then, of course, the newer trends like social media, how do you reach people? Right. Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing. So it's an evolving market, but it's fun.
And you're still loving it.
I still love it, yeah.
Well, I mean, after 26 years, that's pretty incredible.
My husband was funny. When you reach a certain age, you start talking about retirement, which is weird. It's very weird for me to be talking about that. He would like to retire when he reaches 60, whatever, 62, whatever. And anyone who's investigated this knows from a Social Security perspective, the longer you work, the more that you get. So he told me I couldn't retire until I was 67. Oh. And I said, well, that's not fair. Why do I have to keep working when he said, you don't work now as it is. And I thought, well, I really can't. Oh, yeah, he's right, because I love it so much. Right. And owning your own business, you have some flexibility, so I can play a lot more. So it's just, besides the fact that my office says I'm never allowed to retire, so. Yes. I have my staff. Yeah.
There you go. So you're not ever retiring. Well,
apparently not.
Cheryl, here's the deal. Through the course of the years of the magazine, I can't tell you how many community members that I've written stories about who have said, you know what, I retired and then I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
Or I retired and it felt like it aged me. Or, you know, there's no desire. So we're kind of, I feel like in our generations, we're sort of in this thing where there's really, if you enjoy what you're doing, if you love what you're doing, if you have the energy and stamina to do it, do it.
Because it keeps you young.
I think it does keep you young. I think that was pretty much the mantra of whatever, you know, anyone has said. Because I've brought that to my husband too. Listen, here's 2 things. Number 1, everybody says that they wish they would have traveled more. And number 2, that keeping at work keeps you young. So those are the 2 things I've learned.
And I think our generation, you know, I'm technically a baby boomer, but I'm more of a cusper, so I identify with both. But I think that the older generations will focus on you get a job. You get a job and you support your family.
Right.
With our generation, I think we're looking for something more. We want a job that gives us fulfillment on a deeper level. So retirement isn't that big of a deal. You know, it is.
Right.
It brings to the table certainly some things that you can't do when you're working full time. But when work is not a drudgery, when you go because you truly, truly enjoy what you do, then retirement doesn't have quite the allure.
No, agreed, absolutely. Yeah. And that quality of life versus standard of living, that's just the conversation you and I have had, you know, as friends over the years, but we're having with our children too.
Yes.
And we've changed, our focus has changed too. It's always just been, you know, standard of living, or actually half our house has always been divided. You know, of course, there's standard of living and quality of life. Yeah. So we've sort of made a change. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So well, this kind of segues into, I don't know, the magazine. We'll figure out a way. We'll put it together somehow.
It's your show. You can do whatever you want.
There you go. This is true. It's our magazine. We can do what we want. That's a line. That is a great line that Cheryl does. When I come to her and I go, I don't know about this, she says, it's ours. We'll do it. And it's been successful. It's 10 years.
It's just the funniest publication. You know, I'll never forget. In regular readers of the magazine will hear a lot of this because it's things. That's assuming that they remember everything they've ever read in it. But I'll never forget, we were at Chili's having lunch, trying to figure out a project to work on together. And we came up with the concept of this magazine. And I think both you and I realized we had something really unique. We had a really, really great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what has amazed me is people have agreed with us. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had great ideas that nobody agrees with me. But this is one of those times where they do.
Me too. Right.
And the community loves it, but I think sometimes it's just dumb luck. Sometimes you set out and you have a plan and you say, this is what I want to accomplish, this is my goal, this is our focus.
Right.
And I think with the magazine, we've had a very, very targeted goal with what we wanted it to be.
Right.
And
right from day one.
From day one, yeah.
You sort of had that concept right away.
And I think we've been true to it. I don't think the times we have deviated, we could probably count on one hand. So I think we've been very, very true to the spirit of the magazine. But one of the things that we did with it, and I don't know that it was intentional, was we very much wanted it to be the community's magazine.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I remember when we launched, we got a little flack from, how should I say, companies that didn't want us to launch a magazine from a competitive perspective, kind of giving us a bad time that our writers weren't award-winning, they weren't professional writers. And I look back, I wouldn't have changed it, and we didn't change it when we started getting those comments.
Right.
But I think one of the strengths with our magazine is that they're not always professional voices.
Right.
We're allowing this community to tell their stories themselves. Right. And so, as a result, I think the community has really embraced it. This is their magazine. They've got such an emotional ownership of it, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think too, like at the beginning was, you know, just being just absolutely inundated constantly on a daily basis with negative. And that was something that, you know, I knew I would want to be a part of, doing something much more positive for the community. But I also think too that tipping point for me was someone saying, well, print is dead. But my favorite thing is that you'll run out of stories. You'll run out of positive stories. And that just always lights a fire in me when there's somebody that says that it cannot be done. Although, you know, over the course of the years, that sort of fades away.
Yeah.
But it does make you sort of look back and laugh and go, you know what? Here's the deal. print might be dead in other places, and that might be true for some communities, but it's not true for ours.
No.
And then, you know, just hearing, I don't know how many times I read it cover to cover has always just been such a huge motivation. I will never forget, I was at church, this was years ago, and I always worry that the magazine is a little too much our story, because it's in some respects, we get the stories from our life, right? From
people that are in our life,
right?
And I worry that it's a little bit too inclusive. And I had a woman that I go to church with who, at that time, was probably in her 70s, so we were definitely not in the same generational group, and we were definitely not in the same social group.
Right.
And she ran into me at church one time, and she said, I just got your new magazine. She said, I have to tell you, I dog-ear every page. I flip through it, and I dog-ear every page that has somebody that I know in it, in the article, so I can make sure I go back and read it. And she said, invariably, most of the magazine is dog-eared. And that, to me, said we are reaching our goal. We're telling this whole story of our community.
So why don't we take a minute to explain how the dynamic works for you and I? What is the difference between editor, assistant editor, how this partnership works, you know, how we divide and conquer the magazine, but without giving any trade secrets away.
No, and this is going to come as a shock to you. So
okay, I'm ready.
We are two very different people.
No.
Yes.
No, yes, I feel like we're twinsies.
I know. And, you know, I think, you know, they say in a marriage that opposites attract.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think when you're dealing with two people who are so opposite, it could either kill each other or it could be something beautiful. And I think it bounces back and forth sometimes.
Sure, usually around deadline.
With us wanting to kill each other.
Right.
But creating this thing that just covers the board. So you, Ingrid, are all over the board. You've got this beautiful, free-flowing spirit, and you see good in everybody, and we joke about that. And you've got this amazing creative power, and you're able to draw stories out of people.
Right.
And so you are the writing force behind the magazine. You write by far the majority of the articles. You corral our guest writers in and help them work through the creative process and put it together. And then I'm the analytical, so I take all the pieces once the creative is done and put it together. We both do advertising sales. I probably do the majority of it. Right. And then there are other areas that we collaborate on, like the cover or some of the photographic elements within the magazine. You and I will brainstorm how do we want to do with this. But the articles are always chosen together. Right. You know, we sit down once a quarter and we talk through the different ideas. And what do we want to be in this magazine? Here's an idea, what do you think of this? And so that is very much something that we do together. Right. The other aspects I think we kind of do. It is. It's weird. It's like being in a partnership with you that we work very independently in certain aspects, and then very much together and collaborate. Yeah. And now, I mean, it's just incredible to me. Like, I'm still in shock. I want to show everybody this cover because it is off the press. And so, like, here it is. Here's this 10. Here's a perfect example of the difference between Cheryl and I. Is that we're saying, okay, what do we want to do for this cover? And there's a cover recently that just really bothered me, but it was a vanity thing. But it was hilarious. And she has this alligator, they're putting like alligator skin on me, and I'm just like, I'm not having it. And I was like, who the hell's idea was this for this cover? Yours. It was yours.
But it's just, in my mind, it looked a lot different. But I said, you know what, Cheryl, this would be really cool. It would be neat to have the magazine spell out, not spell out, but to actually showcase that there's a 1 and a 0 for the 10 years. And then Cheryl comes to this, and I don't know how else to explain it, because it's just those times where I'm like, as partners, I'm just in awe of you, is that she's got a template when we get to, so she's arranged the photographer, they're gonna do this great drone, photograph, which we've never done before. We've never done a drone photograph on the cover. But then you've got the diagram where each of the magazines go, and at one point in time you're like in the order in which they came out in print.
Well, and they were in there. So to back up, first of all, completely your idea on that. The cover was your idea. And as far as putting the 10, which I just thought was so fun and so brilliant.
Right, thank you, but still you pulled it off.
And I'd love to be brilliant, But the woman that we had do the cover of this is Sissy Beasley.
Right.
She's an amazing photographer. She's primarily known for her wildlife photography and has won numerous awards. She's wonderful. And she lives in Rockport. And I was very, very conscientious of her time.
Right.
Where I didn't want to waste it. And so I had gone through pulling all the copies to make sure we had one of every one. I had to go back into the dungeon to get a few that I was missing, and
And there is a dungeon. If there is ever one in your collection that's missing, we kind of hold a couple. Some of them are coveted, but some of them are,
outside of my favorite cover, which we don't have any left of anymore.
That was so fun too.
Yeah. Which is the Rocky Horror Picture Show cover. That's my favorite
all-time cover.
Yes. Favorite photo shoot, favorite, just everything about it just makes me smile. Anyway, so I had pulled all the issues together, and the day before the shoot, I thought, oh, crap, I don't want to sit there on Sissy's time and try to arrange these, because that would be disrespectful for her and what she has planned. And she was so kind to do it for us.
Right.
And we were shooting it at Rockport Country Club, so I didn't want to tie up their golf course with other people. So I felt like we had a very small amount of time. So I thought I should lay these out to make sure that I know going in how they're going to be arranged, so we don't have to do that on somebody else's time, particularly since they were shooting down and you didn't know how it was going to look.
Right.
So I laid it out really quick, and then I got to looking at it and I thought, oh wait, there's enough room to put us in the center.
Yeah, that is.
So I mocked it up pretty quick, and I think it just makes the cover. I think it would have been fun with the 10, but I think to have us in the center looking up.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going back to just like the different styles. Like how cool is it that I can say, hey, I think we should have the magazine and a 1 and a 0 and make it a 10, and you're like, excellent, and then it's like it's diagrammed, and then it's like you have an actual template to do it all in, and I'm like, wow, that's how it works. Because I would have been out there, I am sure, going, well, how in the world do we make it like this, and yeah. So that's how we're different.
We have always done that with
the
covers. But we work
well.
Yeah. We've done that a lot with the covers. I know you'll come in with these really, really fabulous ideas, and then I throw water on you saying, okay, how are we going to make that work?
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
Look, and when you open it, then this little thing jumps out.
And it's like,
No. Do you remember the time when we were first together, and I was actually in the office with you, and I was trying to tell you that you should do a commercial with a talking dog, and I was like, it would be brilliant, and you were like, you have no idea the work that would go into animating a dog doing this talking.
But it was a brilliant idea.
So I was so disappointed. I was like, wait a minute.
That's my job, to throw water on your fabulous ideas.
Throw water on mine. But it works.
It does work.
And here's the deal. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Now, for us, the big thing that we're doing now is, we've got this 10th anniversary, and definitely a time for a celebration, and just in the spirit of, because that was the one thing that I wanted to kind of go back to, is that our mantra has always been, number one, we're going to just highlight positive people doing positive things in the community. The other thing that I want to go back to is something that you said earlier, is that we were actually doing that friend speak as it was just kind of coming in, the way that the language is written in the magazine, right? Because we don't want not to say we don't want a scholastic publication, but I wanted for people to feel like they could write and tell their story in what we say all the time now, which is write it like you're writing it to your best friend. Use the same tone and dialect and all of that in. And so we've sort of named that friend speak.
Yes.
And that's been something that's been kind of unusual for a lifestyle magazine, but it really works in our community.
It does, and I'll never forget Rachel Adame, Liberty Coffee House. Our children danced together, and I remember we'd been doing the magazine a couple of years, and I ran into her at Busby Dance Center, and she said, oh, I just got the copy of your magazine. She said, I have to tell you, I read your articles and I can hear you. It feels like we're sitting across the table from having a cup of coffee, and you're telling me the story. And she was the first person, for me, who really put that into words. And I thought, oh, that's the tone that we wanted.
Yeah. Right.
And so I've used that with writers since then. I said, just pretend, because I can't write an article. Pretend you're telling me a story over a cup of coffee.
Sure.
So thank you, Rachel, for that great analogy. But
that is absolutely amazing.
But it is absolutely the tone we've gotten, which, again, we tell writers, we're not the newspaper. We don't want who, what, when, where, how, and why.
Right.
We want your story. Tell us your story.
Right, let's peel those back.
I remember when we had, maybe it was the premiere party for the magazine when we launched the first issue. We had a bulletin board. Remember, this was your idea.
Oh, yeah.
Where we had printed off real big, what's your story? And we had post-it notes where people could write story ideas for us and put it on the bulletin board.
Did you put that picture in of the old bulletin board that we used to use?
I put the old bulletin boards in,
yeah. We used to do this. It was sticky notes. That's what the whole... we would just, the whole magazine revolved around Post-it notes.
It did.
And the one thing that hasn't changed, I was just talking to Jake, our producer, is that, used to type on the typewriter, but I still take a pencil and a pen to every interview that I do, and it's really old school, but I still write in shorthand.
What's your comfort zone?
It is my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it works. Yeah. But in the spirit of giving back.
So the fundraiser.
Right.
We've done a couple of movies in the past, and we've had a lot of fun with it. And what struck me, I remember it really struck me with Gone with the Wind, when we showed Gone with the Wind. I grew up seeing that movie, but I'd never seen it on the big screen. And to experience a movie like that on the big screen was, I don't want to say life-changing because that makes it sound too dramatic, but it changed my perception of that movie. So I love this idea of showing movies on the big screen that were made to be shown on the big screen, but that have not necessarily been seen by a lot of people on the big screen.
Right.
And so we are going this time with Young Frankenstein, with we've never done a comedy.
Never, yeah.
And it seemed appropriate. It's going to be in October, so something kind of spooky. And
sure, but not too spooky.
But not too spooky. No, it's definitely kid-friendly.
Yes.
And just a classic. I have not mentioned it to one person where they haven't said, I love that movie. So to be able to experience that together in an audience, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, and then too, let's talk for a minute about how we're going to do this, because when we had our premiere party, it was just to make people aware that the magazine now existed and it was going to print, and at that point I think we had already sold out. It was our first issue or whatever. Again, going back to how incredible it was that we had people, when we didn't even have a tangible magazine, that still said, we love what you guys are trying to do. We believe in you, and we're going to, do ads.
I think it was just such a great reflection on our community. And to be able to go to these business owners and say, look, this is what we want to do.
Right.
And they were willing to take a chance with us.
Yeah.
Which was neat.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't you get, isn't it, there's 15 original that are still with us today?
Yeah.
So 15 advertisers 10 years ago that are still with us all of this time, every issue, and are coming back in. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yes. That's going to be very, very neat. We have to poke fun at them or something while we're on stage. Are we going to get on stage? Did you decide whether we're going to get on the stage and intro? So so the screening is Young Frankenstein. It's October the 19th?
19th.
Yeah.
At the Welder Center.
At the Welder Center, yeah.
Big thanks to Super and the folks at the Welder Center for allowing us to do that.
Cool.
And it starts at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Admission is $10, but we're going to give 100%. Go ahead.
I was going to say $10 for 10 years.
$10 for 10 years, and then 100% of that is going to go into the Citizens. Tell us a little bit about that.
We're donating that to Citizens Medical Foundation. And the goal of the funds that we give them will be to provide mammograms for women who cannot afford it. And, if you haven't read the magazine, I know you've read it, but for the people who are watching who haven't read the magazine, read the article on it. So a lot of this more makes sense.
Right.
Wendy did not know I was writing about her in that article.
Right.
And so she got it and was quite tearful. So my sister, who is the only other original writer to the magazine other than us, is a breast cancer survivor. And so when we were kicking around things that we wanted to do, you and I knew that we wanted to do something more than just show this movie. And we had talked about doing it for free, but to begin, then we decided we wanted to do just a nominal fee and give that money to something.
Yes.
And we ultimately landed on mammograms. Let's provide mammograms for women who can't afford it, which is a tribute to Wendy. And
absolutely.
the amazing woman that she is, and just the amazing things she's accomplished and overcome.
So what did she say?
Oh, she cried.
Did she?
Yeah, she was very touched. And so it's really a big part of it is in honor of her and who she is and what she does and her contribution to the magazine.
I was going to say, if there's anything that I feel like the community doesn't know or understand underneath all the layers of what goes on in producing a magazine, is that we've been really blessed with working together in a way that creates a trifecta, I feel like, all of the time with goodness. So if we're going to do a party, right, then let's do a party that that we can give back. And then let's maybe give back to the fact that let's pay tribute to the fact that there's a woman on our team who's kind of behind the scenes because she works, doing her deal. But she has a phenomenal story too as a breast cancer survivor, and writes in a phenomenal column since day one. And so here we go. And that you can see that a lot if you're really paying attention to how the magazine and what I feel like contributes to a great deal of the success.
Yes.
Is the goodness that it continues to perpetuate. Yeah,
and we do try to draw those distinctions in a subtle way.
Right.
I think we do that a lot with our covers, where if you look at the cover and you really pay attention, you can see a lot of teasers to things that are going on in the stories.
Right. Those are little, what they call Easter eggs now. In video games, I think they're called Easter eggs.
But I'm with you. See, if you were a Swiftie, you would know what those were.
Yes, there we go.
But I do. I'm with you. I love the fact that it comes back around.
Right.
And I love the fact that we're doing something that is a nominal fee. $10 to go see a movie is something I think most people can afford.
Well, my thing is too is that it goes 100% of it is going to this
every
charity.
Penny, every $10 ticket's $10 is donated, and that it's going to something that can make an impact in our community, that can help people where there's a need. There's a true need. You get your mammograms.
Right. Well, and my big deal was that too. I like to know that this money is going locally.
Yes, it's staying local.
Right here in Victoria, Texas. So that's it.
Yeah. And Citizens Medical Foundation has been wonderful in working with us in this. We came to them with this idea and said, this is what we would like to do.
Right.
And they said, okay, we'll do it.
So can we talk about how we got to Young Frankenstein? Do you remember, just all the ideas that we had and where we were going to?
It's such a chain of consciousness thinking.
Yes.
And what do we want to do for our anniversary? And we've done all kinds of things. We had the first year we had that reception where we invited all the advertisers and friends, and the next year we partnered.
Do you remember there was a cook-off?
Yes.
The soup cook-off?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
That was fun, and we had and then the next year we had the reception at 77901 where Coastal Bend played.
Yes.
So we had the band, and then we've done a couple of movies, and so we've done some things, and we're busy. And so my thing was I need something that's going to be fun but not too time consuming to put together.
Right.
And the movies were just fun, and so okay, let's do a movie. And I have to admit that Blazing Saddles was one we had talked about too, but decided that maybe that would be a little bit much. Not quite the right out. My husband was ready for that one.
For all the obvious reasons, if you've seen Blazing Saddles.
So the thought process was, okay, we're going to do this in September. And one of the first things that popped into my head was Pharrell's Fright Fest, where they would show horror movies for Halloween. And I remember I took my girls to see Nosferatu, which was the original vampire movie, and how fun that was to take my kids to see, because it's not scary, it's too campy.
Right.
But I thought, it would be fun to have kind of a sort of Halloween-ish sort of movie, and then thinking about October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Wendy, and
and then that line, because I just want you to say it on air.
The perfect line that sums it all up.
The perfect line. This is how this magazine works right here, guys.
What knockers? And the other half of it is, why thank you, doctor.
Why thank you, doctor. Yes. That's perfect.
It just seemed perfect.
There's that trifecta.
There you go.
There you go.
That's
perfect. So what are we going to do on our 20th?
Ingrid, we don't know what we're doing on the next magazine. I can't plan for 10 years down the road.
Okay, so here's the standing rule. We cannot talk about what the next issue is until this one has gone to press, and we've got it under wraps and it's gone to print. So we're still working on this next one, but it's here now. It's this,
so we start talking
in your
about
mailboxes. Yes, we can start talking now.
And that comes back to the timing thing, because you finish up your articles, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I start working on the layout.
Yes.
So I'm in the middle of the layout. And you're way done. You've done the articles ages ago, so you're ready to move on to the next one.
Right.
So we've had to say.
Well, and people too, I think in the community don't really understand that, if they bring us something now for October, we're cleared. We've done it. We're already working into now, January. And there's a couple of spring things too that I'm, got my eye on for the future too. So 20 years. Will you come and sit with me?
I will.
And we'll do it. We'll do a 20.
I may have a walker, but
That's fine. Are you going to dress up for this? Are we going to? What did we decide to do? Are we going to dress up for Young Frankenstein?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I can't tell you what I'm going to do in October.
Where can we get more information?
So you can go to our Facebook page. We do have an event registered on there where you can buy your tickets online.
Oh, perfect.
You can buy online at the Welder Center, weldercenter.org. You can go to the box office and buy tickets. You can, unless we sell out, you can show up the night of the event and buy tickets.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be super fun. I'm excited. It's going to be nice that we get to, have a party. We're long overdue, I think, for just something.
It's been a while since we've had an event, so this will be fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it is the 10th year anniversary. It is Young Frankenstein. It airs at the Leo J. Welder Center on October the 19th at 7 p.m. This is Cheryl Johnson with Outburst Advertising and Victoria in Motion magazine. So happy, by the way, anniversary on 25 years, or 26, I think, for Outburst, and then for 10 years with us. Thank you for putting up with me.
Thank you for having me.
For 10 years.
And thank you for putting up with me and my snarkiness at publication time.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're everything that you would expect an editor to be. Just easy. No, patience to Job. Well, anyway, but it's so fun, and thank you for finally coming on and being a part of the set. I'm really... I love our friendship, and I love I love what we do. We're doing good things in the community.
It has been a wonderful adventure.
Yeah, an honor to work with you. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for watching South Bridge Street Live.